Hey guys, it's YXBA here, and I'm back with another video. I want to focus this video on some specific changes at Nintendo because there's still a lot of people out there who think that this is the same Nintendo that made the Wii, that made the original DS, and there's more and more evidence all the time that Nintendo has gone through some major changes, and they are changing the way that they view the video game marketplace. Now, this video isn't going to focus so much on the dedicated hardware side of things. I want to focus on Nintendo's approach to mobile gaming to show you how much it has evolved in such a short period of time, as I think this does illustrate very profoundly how much Nintendo's mentality has actually changed. So I want to focus on something that Satoru Iwata said at E3 2013. Now this is approximately half a year or so after the launch of the Wii U. Becoming apparent to Nintendo already at this time that the Wii U was not going to be as big a hit as the Wii was, and that the 3DS was not going to be as big a hit as the DS was previously. And keep in mind that this is already at a time when they had released the Wii U, when they had released the 3DS, and were focusing their consoles more on the core gamer than in the previous generation. There were many reports that nearing the end of the Wii generation, Nintendo had become quite frustrated already with the Wii audience because, simply put, people weren't buying that many games. A lot of people were just buying the console for Wii Sports and they weren't buying additional games. A lot of people were buying games, but it was really hard to predict. So Nintendo was already moving more to the core gamer at the time of these statements. But this is what Nintendo's view at that point in time was on mobile. And here is the quote. "If I was only concerned about managing Nintendo for this year and next year, and not about what the company would look like in 10 or 20 years, then I'd say that my point of view is nonsense. But if we think 20 years down the line, we may look back at the decision not to supply Nintendo games to smartphones and think that is the reason why the company is still here." Okay, so at this point in time, when the Wii U was already not looking like a big hit, when the 3DS was already not looking as big as the DS, Satoru Iwata is still of the mindset that putting Nintendo games on smartphones would basically doom the company over the course of 10 or 20 years. Now, let's fast forward less than 2 years after these comments were made. Nintendo called a surprise press conference to announce that they were partnering with Japanese mobile company DNA on March 17th of 2015, and this partnership was going to be for Nintendo to produce mobile games using their IP for Android and iOS. But probably the most interesting part is what kind of games is Nintendo planning to bring. And they made it very, very clear at this time that they were not planning to bring classic Nintendo games, and that they were going to do games that were well optimized for the touchscreen, and that they wanted to really differentiate these games from their core experiences on their own hardware so it would not potentially eat away at their hardware sales. And they presented it as if they were mostly just making mobile games to spread the word on their IP, and hopefully that would bring more gamers into their dedicated hardware. And here's one of the quotes. "To ensure the quality of game experience that consumers expect from this alliance of Nintendo and DNA, only new original games optimized for smart devices functionally will be created, rather than porting games created specifically for the Wii U home console or the Nintendo 3DS portable system." So let's get back into our time machine and fast forward to May of this year, when Nintendo unveiled a couple of new smartphone games at their investors briefing. Those games, of course, were Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing, and we still to this day don't have full details on those titles, but new Nintendo president Kimishima made some interesting comments on Nintendo's plans for mobile in general, and here's what he had to say. If people are not sure about how serious we are about smart devices, it means that information issued from our company is not accurately conveyed, and I have to reflect on that. As we have reiterated, we want to grow smart device gaming as one of the pillars of Nintendo's revenue stream. As for shifting managerial resources in that direction, we have very capable developers who are working on development of games for smart devices. As you already know, of course, Mr. Miyamoto, our creative fellow, is also supporting the business for smart devices from a company-wide perspective. To explain the level of engagement of Mr. Miyamoto, he is having specific talks with developers of games for smart devices on what would be desirable overall. In that sense, what you see from the outside may be markedly different from what you see on the inside. As I have said, we want this to be one of the pillars of our business. Our level of engagement has not lessened, so I hope you will understand that. Wow. So, in a very short period of time, Nintendo has really changed their mentality. And part of that, I think, has to do with Mr. Kimishima being a businessman, and he wants to focus more on giving consumers what they want, because that is what business people do. So they went from under Mr. Iwata, where the smartphone business was seen more as a way to move mobile gamers into Nintendo's hardware itself, to being a core pillar of Nintendo's business from a profit-making standpoint. So it means more that Nintendo is going to not necessarily worry about how this does or doesn't cut into Nintendo's hardware business, because they are focusing on this as a big revenue stream for Nintendo, not just some marketing thing for their core business. Now, Nintendo has always done a good job, even with their dedicated hardware, to differentiate and making people want to own both the handheld and the console, so I still think that that will continue with the mobile ventures going forward. Now let's fast forward again to late June of this year at Nintendo's annual general investors meeting. Nintendo's general manager of entertainment planning and development, Shinya Takahashi, said something very interesting at the meeting. Here's what he said. Physical controllers for smart device applications are available in the market, and it is possible that we may also develop something new by ourselves. Again, to me, this is very, very interesting, and it shows an evolving mindset within Nintendo towards this marketplace. It all started off with, no, Nintendo, we're never going to make mobile games. It would destroy our business, to, yeah, we will make games for mobile, but we're just going to use that to promote our IP, and we're going to be very careful about it not infringing at all on our core business, to mobile is a pillar for Nintendo in terms of generating revenue, to today, where Nintendo is actually considering making a physical, traditional gaming controller for mobile devices, which tells me that the way things are going, you might even see Nintendo putting games on Apple TV at some point, and I think it makes a lot of business sense for Nintendo to do so. I think in this short period of time, you're going to probably end up seeing Nintendo actually putting virtual console experiences on other platforms like mobile, for example. And I think that could actually be a good thing. There has also been a lot of talk in the past about how Nintendo wants to make it really, really easy to port games back and forth between mobile and their dedicated hardware. Well, if you actually started bringing your virtual console games to that huge marketplace, I think that what you'll see is the actual dedicated hardware getting more virtual console games than it has maybe in the Wii U generation, where it just maybe wasn't worth the money to spend on developing or redeveloping all those games. And it will end up being a good thing for Nintendo, and they will also make more money overall, and basically I think everybody wins on a scenario like this. But for those of you who think that the NX is just going to be a Wii casual, completely different style of play type of an experience, I just don't see it. I mean, even in the mobile marketplace, Nintendo has gone to the point where you're starting with something that's very gimmicky and unique to begin with, and even there, Nintendo is trying to pull it towards a core traditional experience with the possible development of a physical controller. With all the change in this one marketplace, I think it illustrates how much has changed at Nintendo in other marketplaces as well, and I believe that the approach to dedicated hardware has also gone through similar changes, and particularly I think when Kimishima took over, Nintendo has likely more and more thought in terms of making the wise business decisions and actually giving gamers the features and the hardware and the type of games that they actually want for a consumer that's willing to actually buy dedicated hardware. So yeah, give me your thoughts in the comments below. I think that this is an interesting illustration of how far Nintendo has come and how much change has gone on there. If you disagree, you still think Nintendo is the same company that they were back in the Wii days, I would love to engage you in that conversation. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe.